Sean Duffy with me this morning. The judge okayed cameras in the courtroom. Trump's expected to be fingerprinted and have a mugshot taken, unlike the other indictments. This is a circus, Sean. Is that what the Democrats want? I think it is.
I think it is, too. Listen, they want to have Donald Trump do the perp walk. They want the perp picture. They want the cameras in the courtroom. They want all of this on display, Stuart. I think they think this is their way they're going to take down Donald Trump. However, it didn't work with Russia collusion, leaks from the FBI, the DOJ. It didn't work with impeachments, didn't work with January 6th. This is their last step. And Donald Trump just keeps going up in the polls. I think you made this point. He's going to be a sympathetic figure because of the overplay of the Democrats' hand. I mean, again, if people said, listen, he took bribes, he sold America out, he shot and killed someone, prosecute him. But no one actually understands the charges. This is the charges are not in our lexicon of criminal knowledge that Donald Trump has committed. And I think that's a real problem that Democrats have. Again, the charges that came in D.C., they were not charges for an insurrection, which is illegal. There are all these other charges that no one's heard of. Same thing on the Georgia charges that he's going to be booked on today. So it's going to be a media circus, and again, it's not going to play in the Democrats' hands.
But you think Trump's support could actually grow after today?
Well, Stuart, it's continued to grow, right? Every time he's indicted, every time he appears in court, his poll numbers go up. And again, you made this point. There was a debate last night. A lot of ideas were put out there. There are, I think, winners and losers. Some were a lot better than others. But the conversation today is now going to be about Donald Trump, right? Yep. You're not going to be replaying, the clips of the back and forth that took place yesterday. It's all going to be Trump all day long. And again, I think it undermines what happened last night. But Donald Trump, again, takes center stage. His ideas and the political persecution is what America's going to talk about, not the ideas and how we move the country forward.
Of the candidates on the stage last night, who do you think was the winner?
100% Vivek Ramaswamy. I thought he was the one that distinguished himself, whether he was talking about pardoning Trump, whether he was talking about climate change being a hoax, taking money away from Ukraine. He was able to stand up and give clear, crisp answers that not everyone agreed with. But I thought that was impressive. Also, the fights that he got into on stage gave him more time to respond, gave him more camera time to introduce himself to the American Republican voter. I think Ron DeSantis, he wasn't bad. He was kind of a push for me. The problem was he needed to shine. He needed to razzle-dazzle on stage. He's lost about 8% of his polling numbers in the last month. He's losing donors. He needed to show that he was the top guy that could take on Donald Trump. He should be the actual number two. And I don't think he crossed that bar. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great, and he needed a great night.
Who was the biggest loser?
Everybody else. Listen, I thought they were early 2000-esque candidates. There was a lot of talking points, a lot of neocon philosophy on stage, whether it was from Mike Pence or Nikki Haley. By the way, we talk about a great bench in the Republican Party. There was a great bench in 2015 when you had two tiers of candidates on stage, but Burgum and Asa Hutchinson wouldn't have even made the second tier. They would have been in a third tier. And now they're on the main stage right now. I was not that impressed with a lot of the answers that were given. It was just kind of this rote, old school conservatism. There wasn't. Remember when Donald Trump, Stuart, was talking about let's build a wall? Well, no one talked about building a wall. No one talked about securing the border. They didn't think they could. Donald Trump did. He led the party. He was talking about Russia taking jobs away from American workers. We're going to use tariffs to actually attack China and protect American businesses. I'm not a big tariff guy, Stuart. I'm a free trader. But he was right on a lot of that stuff, and he won people over because he was a big thinker. There was no big thinking last night, no big new ideas that took place last night.
Maybe Trump should get into the second debate on September 27th in California, hosted by Fox Business.
What network is that on? What network is that on, Stuart?
Fox Business, I believe. Yeah, you got that?
Fox
like
Business.
You and I.
It's going to be.
Duffy, you're all right.
That's right.
See you again soon, man.